we going today, Ronnie?
We're on our way to pick up Keith Spera, who is the music writer for the Times-Picayune and NOLA.com.
That is interesting.
Yes, he's a Brother Martin grad from New Orleans, grew up in the lower Ninth Ward, and cut his teeth on New Orleans music from an early age. He's part reporter, part confidant when he interviews people, so he really gets to the heart and soul of musical New Orleans and its people.
Wow.
I think turnabout is fair play. We're going to go pick him up and talk to him a little bit about what makes him tick, because he is the go-to person for all things musical in New Orleans.
Wonderful. Let's go.
Okay, so here we are at Keith Spera's house in the lakefront. Hey, Keith,
Hey.
good to see you.
Welcome to Lakeview.
Thanks.
Where are we going, Mr. Keith, today?
Let's go by Morning Call in City Park.
Okay. Are you ready?
I am. I am. I can smell the beignets.
So, Keith, why are we going to Morning Call? Do you have a secret beignet craving that the world should know about?
I just like the fact that it's this juxtaposition of a very quintessentially New Orleans place inside of City Park. I mean, it's, you don't expect to find a 24-hour beignet and coffee place in the middle of this park, especially at night when it's dark and there are the trees and it's kind of spooky. And then you come across this little oasis, so it's kind of cool.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune.
So yeah, I mean, my job is basically what it's always been. I do interviews and reviews and news about the local music scene. Always out there letting people know what to go see and hear.
What's the one place in New Orleans that you get the real, true New Orleans sound?
Well, there's some debate as to what that actually means, In fact, Kristen Diablo, the singer-songwriter, recently wrote an op-ed piece in the Times-Picayune about that question, because some people don't consider what she does New Orleans music, because she doesn't do a lot of horns, doesn't do second-line rhythms. She's a singer-songwriter, but her music is very much inspired by New Orleans. So I hesitate to put any sort of label on anything that is New Orleans music. Preservation Hall has gotten so much more creative in what they do. It's not just what you refer to as the traditional New Orleans music. I mean, they do these really interesting midnight shows now, and they've expanded what they do quite a bit. So, it really depends on what your definition of New Orleans music is.
What about street performers? Do you stop? Do you listen? Where do you go?
And yeah, Joey Cook, who was on American Idol for a long time, who had a really great run on American Idol, she was busking in the French Quarter for a while. Hooray for the Riff Raff, those guys started out busking on the French Quarter, and now they have a national record deal and tour all over the country. So, yeah, there are absolutely some hidden gems hanging out there on the street.
At NOLA V, we talk about the culture that bubbles up from the street, and I think that's especially true of the music in New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, New Orleans music is such a part of people's everyday existence that it comes naturally to play it. Well, except for me. It doesn't come naturally to me to play music at all. But, yeah, so it's just ingrained in the culture here, and when you do it without thinking about it, when you do it for the passion and for the love of it, that's how you get the best stuff.
You have talked to many, many people about their passion and love for the music. One or two most memorable interview moments?
John Fogerty, talking to him in 2014 for Jazz Fest, told me about this dream he had about Alan Toussaint, which was kind of an interesting moment. Billy Joel, a great, candid, talkative guy who also loves New Orleans, loves coming here, loves Fats Domino, the piano tradition here. I never thought I would go to New York with Fats Domino on the plane and document him rambling around New York, being Fats in New York, which was one of the greatest experiences of my journalistic career for sure. Keith Urban, spoke to him for this year's Jazz Fest. Very intelligent guy, very insightful about what he does and why he does it. Artists at that level, 9 times out of 10, are very smart, driven people, so they're very good at expressing themselves. And they always want to put on their best face when they're being interviewed because they don't want to look like a jerk. So I tend to get them in good moods and, and when they're feeling good about things.
Give me your 6 hours on a Friday night tour of local dives for someone who wants to see the real New Orleans.
You can start off, depending if it's a Friday or Saturday night, you can start off hearing John Boutte sing early at DBA. He did the theme music for Treme. Very much a New Orleans voice, a guy that is very New Orleans. There'd be no mistaking or no discussion about whether or not he's New Orleans or not. He certainly is. So you can start there, have a couple drinks on Frenchman Street, grab a bite, depending on who's on at Tipitina's that night. You can go uptown, Later on, go to the Maple Leaf to see the night play itself out into the wee hours there. Hank Staples, the owner, great New Orleans character. If he's around holding court, it's well worth getting his take on life. He'll be the guy without sleeves. I think he has 1 or 2 shirts that have sleeves. That's about it. And then a nightcap at any number of the really late night places. Snake and Jake if you want to get in a little trouble, and
Morning call.
And then morning call, perhaps.
If you need a coffee.
For, some coffee and a little late night snack.
How has music, Keith, changed in the 20 years you've been doing it here?
The bigger picture of music has changed a lot. I mean, the way that people consume music, the way that people buy it or don't, But New Orleans, has always been its own self-sustaining environment for music. There are people that make a living here without ever playing outside of New Orleans all that much, and that still hasn't changed. But on the flip side, there are bands that have national ambitions and have succeeded in those. I mean, the last few years you've had Hooray for the Riff Raff emerge. Trombone Shorty has become a big star nationally. Kristen Diablo, again, has a national record out. Sweet Crude, Tank and the Bangas. These are all bands that didn't exist 10 years ago, and they're all doing really, really good, vital work. So, that's the great thing about my job, is that the city and its music just keep renewing themselves.
So here we are at Morning Call, Keith.
Great.
It was great riding with you.
It's been the most entertaining cab ride of my life.
We'll take 2 orders of beignets,
2 orders
please.
of beignets
Yes.
coming right up. I'll
Right.
get those for you guys. Get them right
Please
away.
do.
All right.
It's great
Thanks a
talking
bunch.
to you.
Yep.
Take
See you all later.
care.
Take care.
Keep the music going.
You bet.
This video is sponsored by TaxiCabApp, a fast, safe, and easy app for hailing cabs. Download the app on the App Store or on Google Play.